Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to the NAAEE webinar. This webinar is not moving forward. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. So this webinar is going to focus on NAAEE's accreditation program, which is to recognize distinguished college and university programs. And I'm Bora Simmons at the University of Oregon, and I'm joined today with Becca Franzen, Dottie Shuman, and they will be introducing themselves along the way in the program. This program is sponsored by NAAEE. It's an initiative NAAEE and the EE Capacity Program, which is EPA funded. And obviously we give our thanks to the University of Wisconsin Stevens Point and Montreat College for their support of this webinar and our initiative. I wanted to give you a quick overview of our agenda, what we'll be talking about over the next 40 minutes to an hour. First, we're going to give you a short introduction to what is accreditation, why you might want to complete the accreditation process for your university program, how the process works, examples of a completed application so you can sort of see the level of information that we're looking for, and then an opportunity for question and discussion. So just for you to know that we are using a webinar program, and there's a way for you to interact with us as we go along. If you go up to the top of your screen, there is a little black ribbon that pops down. And through that, you can go to the chat box and you can send messages to us, your questions, tell us to speak up, to slow down, do all of those sorts of things. You are all muted, as are all of the presenters, except for the person who is actually talking at the time. And that's to avoid problems with feedback and all of those sorts of things. So I want to just show you pictures of our three presenters. I'm the person on the right. I'm Bora Simmons, and then I'm also joined by Dottie and Becca. So let me first start off by saying that we're very, very excited that we have 5 institutions that have been accredited through NAAEE. Eastern Kentucky University and Nova Southeastern University were both originally accredited through NCATE, and NCATE is a national accrediting body focusing on teacher preparation institutions. For lots of different reasons, we are no longer part of NCATE, but we consider that both Eastern and Nova completed the requirements of accreditation, so they are still considered to be accredited by NAAEE. Montreat and University of Wisconsin Stevens Point were both accredited in the fall of 2013 in our pilot year. And then most recently, Southern Oregon University was just accredited this last fall. So what exactly is accreditation? Most of you probably understand this because your university or college goes through accreditation of various sorts. But basically, it's a formal recognition of high quality college and university programs. What's important with accreditation is that it's a third-party recognition. So NAAEE, as a third party to your university or college program, is recognizing you. It facilitates in-depth continual assessment and improvement of your program. And I think that's particularly important because you really are trying to look in depth into your program, think about what's working, what isn't working, and improving it. So accreditation isn't the end of the trail. It's in a lot of ways sort of the beginning of the trail. And what's also really important is that it's standards-based. The NAAEE accreditation focuses on the preparation and professional development of environmental educators. And we use as our criteria the level to which you have basically aligned your program to the guidelines for preparation and professional development, which have to do with their 6 themes. These are available up online at NAAEE website, but basically the 6 themes have to do with environmental literacy of the participant in your program, the degree to which they understand the foundations of environmental education, the professional responsibilities of an environmental educator, planning and implementation of EE programs, the whole notion of how you go about fostering learning and assessment and evaluation. And now I'm going to turn it over to Becca.
Hello, my name is Becca Franzen, and I'm an assistant professor at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, and worked on our accreditation materials to submit for the fall of 2013, and I'm really glad to be here today. So there's a couple of reasons as far as why, well, there's a number of reasons as far as why you might want your program to be accredited. And all different kinds of programs can be accredited, and there's different reasons when we look at that internally and also when we look at it from an external perspective. So some of the reasons that are beneficial to consider why accreditation include this idea that it really does force you, it encourages you, it causes you to take a look at your program outcomes and the performance of you and your students, and balance that against these well-accepted criteria of the guidelines for the preparation and professional development of environmental educators. So how does what you're doing and what your outcomes are, how does that align with that? So that's good to just, you know, cause you and the rest of the faculty that you might be working with to really take a look at that. Additionally, it uses that structured program evaluation and reflection for evidence-based program improvement. So it helps you to see where are some gaps that you might have in your programs. What is it that maybe there's an area that you really need to take a closer look at, like maybe civic engagement is a piece of that, or maybe it's the foundations of environmental education that you need to include more in regards to history and philosophy. So it allows you to look at your program, but then also consider how you might improve your program. Additionally, it clarifies what your goals, your objectives, and how you implement that program, and makes it clear across the program, across all the faculty that are involved. It also helps you clarify that for the administration of your program, for your college dean or your university chancellor, as well as helps you clarify it in your own mind for how you might convey that to your students. It also documents your successes for your program impact with university-wide reviews. So it allows you to really say, these are things that we're doing well. And finally, an internal reason is to attract and retain students. So this might be something that you are listing in your course catalog materials or on your websites that can, you know, allow you to attract and keep those great students that are interested in a high quality environmental education program. There are also some external reasons why accreditation can be really helpful. For example, it allows you to convey what it is that you're doing, what your goals are really clearly for employers of your students, people who might look to fund your programs or donate to your college and university, so that they know that you are adhering to a set of standards and that you've been accredited by this external agency. It also demonstrates to the public and to governing boards and others that your program really is using best practices and preparing well-qualified graduates. So everyone knows, your governing boards and just the general public and others, they all know that what you are doing is right in line with what the field of environmental education is suggesting, the standards that have been developed through those particular guidelines. Additionally, we can share our best practices and we can enrich all the programs and the profession. So that is another external reason that I think is really important. So when I think of some examples that UWSP has faced, or me in my role, I work with a teacher-educator network for environmental ed in the state of Wisconsin. In regards to that last bullet, that's an area that we're working on right now, is how can we tell other faculty at other universities and other programs how we're including environmental ed, and in this case, specifically to our environmental education program, or our teacher education program, sorry. But it really does allow you to share your ideas. If you share, and you'll see some of the charts coming up in this presentation, but to allow others to see the kind of work that you're doing, how you're teaching it, and how you're assessing that learning. Another area that UWSP at Stevens Point that we found to be really beneficial is for us to be able to say, you know, as we look at how we might work more efficiently, and how we might trim courses or trim credits from a particular program, we're able to look back at our documents that we submitted for this and that we continue to work on as we look to the next on our accreditation process. But it helps us to say, okay, this course is not a course that we can cut, because this course is one that helps us to meet that environmental literacy guideline much more clearly and fully. It's the only place where we really get into the dirt in regards to civic responsibility and engagement. So those are a few examples of how UWSP has used it and how I've used it in my role. Dottie, do you have some examples that you would like to share as well? Oops, sorry here.
Well, that's okay. Hi, my name is Dottie Shuman, and I am a professor here at Montreat College, a small college in Western North Carolina. And I guess just to piggyback on what Becca was saying, for us as a small college here in North Carolina, you know, we're not one of the big universities, this accreditation really helps us to attract students, because they can see that we are meeting the standards that are set by the North American Association for Environmental Ed, which is fantastic for us. So we are happy to have gone through the process. It really helped us to look carefully at what we offer, and we're happy to be here as an accredited organization. So I'm moving on now with some other things to help you as a potential applicant to think about what this application looks like. And so we just wanted to begin by saying that really anyone, this accreditation is open for any college or university within the States and also outside the United States. So anyone that has either a major or a minor, or even a certificate program or an endorsement program, or some type of, maybe your college has an environmental studies program that focuses on environmental education. That particular program could apply for accreditation. So no matter what type of program you are working in, if you feel like your program meets the guidelines that Bora went over earlier, you can apply and hopefully then become another accredited university. So you might be thinking, well, this might be good for us, our program to apply to. And I'm trying to move to the next slide, but I'm having trouble. There it is. So you might be thinking, well, yeah, we have a program that meets the guidelines. How would I go about applying for this accreditation? So what's really great is that NAAEE has set up a very specific process for completing a self-study. But there are two important areas that you need to address in your self-audit. And the first one of those is how your program design, whatever it might be, how is your program aligned to each of the 6 themes that Bora mentioned earlier. So it really causes you to take a look at your overall program offerings and really take a look at how they meet the themes. So you need to be able to describe that. The second thing that you need to be able to describe is how your program participants, so your students, how are you as a program assessing them? And again, when your program is up for the self-study, you need to actually show some of the assessments that you're using so that the people who are reviewing your application can see how not only your program meets the guidelines, but then how you're assessing the students to be sure that they are at that high level. So all of that we're going to go over in slide by slide so you can see how those guidelines are set up for us in the self-study audit. But another thing that you need to be aware of before you can embark on this self-study is that you need to be able to report a minimum of 2 years of data. So if your program is new, you might want to wait a couple of years until you have some data to report. So let's move on ahead to the application process. This will be all available online to you at the NAAEE website, but there's a full booklet that describes a lot of what we're talking about today. But when you're actually preparing your packet of information for NAAEE, you have 3 basic sections that you will be completing. And I'll go over each one of these separately. But the first one is just a cover sheet to learn more about your institution. The second provides program data, things like your vision, mission, philosophy, and goals, as well as some participant and faculty information. And the third section is really the meat of the self-study, where you have to report on those 2 areas of how your program meets the guidelines and how you're assessing on the guidelines. So let's take a look at that cover sheet. First of all, you can see that it's fairly straightforward, just looking for general information about you as a preparer as well as your college. Is it public, private, or some other type of institution, annual enrollment, and so on. So that's a pretty simple section. You'll move through that one quickly. Section 2 then moves into specific program data, whereas Section 1 was college and university information. Section 2 is your specific program data. So this all is related not necessarily to the vision mission of your college, but of the program that you're applying for accreditation. So in this section, it's just important to give as much information as possible so that the reviewers can really understand your program. You know, is it just a certificate that fit into something else with a lot of different courses? How was it developed? When was it developed? All those types of things are really important to help the reviewers understand your program. So any type of information that you can give here is very important. So there's some of this is narrative information, but the packet itself does include some charts to make it easier to assess, as well as easier for you to give all the information that's needed. So as you look at Section 2, there are 2 tables that you begin with here. The first one is all about who is teaching in your program. So these can be adjunct instructors, maybe you have some park rangers coming in, you know, whoever is helping to instruct in your program. The reviewers would like to know who the instructors are, what their degrees are, highest degree, as well as the role. Are they just coming in as a guest speaker, or are they developing the entire course outline and running the course, title and rank, and if applicable, tenure or not. So that's table number 1 within the program data. Table number 2 within the program data is describing more specifically about the program participants. So again, you want to take, remember we're looking at least 2 years of data. You can have more, but you'll take 1 year and move across the chart and describe the number of new students that were accepted that year, column number 3, the number of continuing students that have been enrolled, and then the number of students that were graduated that year, and then any information that you might have about the demographics of the participants. So again, this information is background information, helping the reviewers really understand a little bit about your program. And just personally here at Montreat, we're a very small program, so the reviewers would see that, you know, we have 10 to 15 in a cohort, and maybe we're graduating, you know, 5 or 6 each year. So it's important to, again, you want to give as much information so there's no question in the reviewer's mind of what your program is about. So again, section 1 and 2, not too difficult, really reporting data, reporting information. Section number 3 is where you're going to really begin to move into your self-study. Just like Becca described, this is your chance to look at your coursework, what fits to the guidelines, what can be improved in your program. So the self-study itself has a few charts that you will fill out and a few additional pieces of information that you can provide. So let me just explain those. So what we're looking at right here is the very quick course alignment matrix. And here you would take each each course, and list the courses down the left side of the chart, and then simply check off, oh, this course addresses theme number 3. You know, EV 555 addresses theme number 6. And we'll take a look more specifically at how you're going to add more detail to that. But for each course that you feel is important to preparing your students, you have an opportunity to also, besides these checkoffs, to provide a 1-page information sheet about that course. So we're not asking for the entire course outline, but just a 1-page summary of the types of things that are happening in that course or experience. And I think it's important here, even though it says course alignment, remember this can include an experience. Say you have a 2-week camping experience that the students do in your program. So you could list that as one of the main coursework or experiences that are included in this matrix. So moving on, as I said, we're going to look a little bit more specifically. And we have now moving on to not only showing how the coursework fits the guidelines, the themes, excuse me, but we're going to take each theme independently. And for that theme, we are going to show the courses that meet that theme, that we teach anything related to that theme. And we're not only going to describe how the guideline is addressed, but we're also going to describe, as you can see in column 3, how the program participants are assessed. And again, I'm going to give you an example of this. In addition to describing how the guidelines and themes are addressed and how the program participants are assessed, you're also going to describe how the participants are evaluated on the assessments. How many are you expecting to get A's and B's and so on? And then finally, you're going to give a summary of your assessment for those at least 2 years of data that you have. So let's take a look at a very specific example. And this slide may be a little overwhelming to you, but I'll try to work carefully through it. Again, you can see that the theme of environmental literacy is the theme that's being addressed in this chart. Underneath the theme are the sub-themes of questioning analysis, knowledge of systems, addressing issues, personal responsibility. This is an example from Montreat College, and our particular goals of our Master of Science in Environmental Ed, our goals are lined up to meet different themes. So for us, it was important to list our goals there as well. So our personal goals at Montreat, goal 2, 3, and 4, which we identified earlier in our document, we could show how our goals were developed in relation to the themes. So let's take the example of this course that we offer at Montreat called EV 515, which is an Earth Systems course. That course is almost 100% focused on the knowledge of systems. And so when we talk about how the guideline is addressed, students experientially study the Earth systems. And so what that means, that's a short description to say that, oh, we're taking them outside. They're going to not only learn about these things, but they're going to have an opportunity to do some teaching on weather and climate, geology, ecology, and so on. So you can see that EV 515, they're experiencing the Earth system, but yet in EV 555, they're also going to have an opportunity to teach on those topics. So that leads them into not only knowledge of the system, but learning about how to question related to that system. So in column number 2, what we're trying to do in a very short number of words is describe how we are actually teaching toward that theme. And hopefully those examples there help you to understand how you might describe that in your own program. Moving on to column number 3, here we need to describe how our program participants are assessed. So a simple assessment in EV 515 is the students take an Earth Systems comprehensive take-home exam that not only asks them to provide knowledge based on what they learned, but applying the Earth system concepts in different ways. So it's a very comprehensive final that the students take. So that's one method of assessment. And then moving on to describing how the program participants are evaluated, well, the students are scored, and we are hoping that at least 75% of our students will score in the A range for that particular assessment. And then our summary of assessment was that in cohort 3, 4, and 5, which represented 21 students, there are the Earth Systems exam scores, that there were 13 A's and 8 B's. So that gives you an idea of just an easy knowledge of systems theme, sub-theme, how we work that through each step. So as you think about your own programs, think about the experiences, the courses, how they fit. Really try to work out a matrix where you see all of the themes addressed by all of your courses. And I'm just going to go backwards, I hope. Maybe I can't. Yes, let's go backwards. Nope, can't go backwards. Okay, so I was thinking about, oh gosh, can somebody help me go backwards? I went way too far ahead. I'm going to give up remote control here for a minute. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to go one more back, please, if somebody can help. There we go. Again, here you're listing your courses and experiences, and you're just simply checking off which themes are addressed. And I think when Montreat College went through this process, we were able to see where we were very strong in relation to the themes and where we might have needed to add some more experiences or specific courses. So I think that's what really helps in this self-study audit. So hopefully section 3 won't be as scary to you as you think about the audit, because you have some examples here now of how Montreat College moved through these. So let's see if I can get back to having control here to move us forward. Again, I hope that we have a better understanding now of what is required as the self-study. It's a rather full process. You do need to look at all your coursework. You do need to get any faculty that are teaching in your program involved so that you are sure to have good assessments described, good data described, and remember, you need 2 years of data. So say you've got it all packed off and sent off to NAAEE, you might wonder, well, how is it then accredited? Well, there is a panel of education professionals that will review your self-study audit. And of course, they've got the guidelines right there before them. And they're looking to see that all 6 of the guideline themes are met at an acceptable or target level. And remember, they're looking at both program design and how the participants are assessed. So we also have a rubric that the team uses when they're assessing. And you can see that rubric here. So for each theme, the reviewers will review all your information related to that theme, and then they'll rate that as either not met, acceptable, or target on program alignment as one area, and then they'll also look specifically at those assessments and again rate it in those 3 categories. So that helps you understand a little bit about how the assessment of the applications are reviewed. And again, that's a very detailed process where the team will look at the applications independently and then talk with one another, making sure that they agree on the assessments. So I'm going to turn it back over to Bora now, who's going to help us learn a little bit more about how to apply and when you can apply.
Muted. Okay, so I am unmuted. This is excellent. So what we do is we accept applications at any time during the year, but we basically, the deadline is April 15th of each year. So April 15th, 2017 is the next due date. And then after we get in applications, we'll form those panels of reviewers. They take some time to be excuse me, to basically look at those. We go back and forth. If we need more information, we'll go back to the applicant and ask for revisions, ask for more information, especially if we think that it's just a case of sort of our instructions perhaps not being as clear as they could have been, so that we want to make sure that everybody is able to put their best foot forward with it. We're hoping with picking April 15th that it's after spring break for most universities and college programs, and so that way it can be done sort of as comfortably as possible. If you have questions about this process, please feel free to give me an email, just at borasimmons@gmail.com. You can also go up to the NAAEE website, and if you go under the tab that says Our Work, there's a drop-down menu, and one of the categories in the first column says Higher Education Accreditation. And if you click on that, you'll be able to read more about this, and you'll be able to download the manual that details all of the instructions of how to fill out all of the forms, as Dottie told you. As of right now, the manual that is up there is in draft form, but it certainly gives you all of the background information that you need. And by the end of the year, so by the end of December 2016, we will have the new manual up there posted, as well as we'll have Word documents with all of those tables and forms, so you won't have to create them yourself. But you'll be able to download the manual, take a look at it, understand what you need to gather, and then you'll be able to use the Word documents to fill in your application and send it off to us. One thing, this webinar itself will be up on EE Pro. It'll be posted hopefully within the next about 2 days. So you'll be able to go back to it, read it, understand or listen to it, understand if you miss something one way or the other, and also be able to talk to others within your institution and share this information. Now I'm going to pass you back on over to Becca.
Great. So, this process can seem a little intimidating, but the benefits, the why we do accreditation is really valuable. Again, there's those internal reasons and there's those external reasons. And, you might be thinking, well, I need to go somewhere to get some resources. What else can I do? What are other people doing? And a great place to do that is by connecting with a higher education EE Pro group. There are many different interest groups that you could choose to join here, but we will continue the discussion around accreditation in the higher education group. And already in that group, you can see in the discussion area that people have posted resources regarding, some resources that will link you directly to different course syllabi or reading lists. It's a place so that you can share challenges and successes and post any kinds of questions that you think that you would like answered and that you think might be helpful for others too. Or if you have, maybe you have something, a success story yourself that you would like to share that you think would help other people. So I hope that you've enjoyed the webinar today. And again, you can share questions through the EE Pro group by getting in touch with Bora at her email or getting in touch with Dottie and I as well. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Becca. So what we also just wanted to mention to you and sort of promote is that through EE Pro up on the NAAEE website, that there are a lot of different ways that you can learn more, not only about higher education practice and EE in general, but some other very specific types of interest groups. So EE Pro, there's about 16 different interest groups, including higher education, but other groups that are interested in early childhood education, interested in conservation, interested in diversity issues. So there's a lot of different resources that are available to you, and they're all free for you just to participate in. One of the other things is that NAAEE sponsors a monthly webinar series that sort of takes on important issues for our practice of EE. And all you need to do is to go up to the NAAEE website. You can log in if you want to actually participate in things. So if you want to post comments in EE Pro, those kinds of things, that you need to log in. But it's free. You need to register within NAAEE, have your credentials if you're a member, or if you participated in a conference, you have a login. And otherwise you can just, create your new login. And that gives you sort of an open door to a huge amount of information out there. We have a very active EE Pro group on research and evaluation, as well as the higher education. So some interesting work that is out there and available for especially higher ed professionals. So for the NAAEE webinar series, it's the fourth Tuesday of every month at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And sometimes it's a little flexible because it depends on who's presenting that month. Sessions are on a variety of different topics. And, we're really trying to bring new ideas and thinking to our work. There have been webinars that are bringing in from consultants and groups that are very interested in environmental education and huge supporters of environmental education, but they're kind of from outside. They're bringing in outside expertise around communications and a number of different topics. And again, it really all comes down to our being able to communicate and talk with one another, learn from one another, and improve our practice and the quality of our field. There are 2 upcoming webinars. One is on Thursday, November 17th, and this is sort of one of those examples of how they're not always exactly the same day of the month. But this is building on some successful webinars that we've had around diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. And then a second webinar that's going to be in December, early December, and that's really looking at some technology sorts of issues and using field data and web mapping technology. So some really exciting webinars coming up. And frankly, we open it up that if you have topics that you think would make a really great webinar, please contact us, and we'll try to see if we can arrange a webinar on that topic. But I would love to thank my 2 colleagues, Becca and Dottie, for their participation today and their description of their programs and why they've been so involved with our accreditation process. And I'd like to thank you all for participating in this webinar and thinking about how we can continue to develop our practice. Thank you, and goodbye.